Cause we be on a Templar. Oh, we feeling so high. Don't be afraid of falling, cause you know we gon' fly.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kensani and I bring you faith, education, wisdom and lifestyle content. Please don't forget to comment, like and subscribe. So it seems as if we're starting the year with a lot of content around reading. So previously I did a video, if you're a regular on the channel, I did a video where I shared the 6 books I read in 2022. So in this video I'm going to share the other the other 6 books I read in 2022 which were not part of the initial video. So it's very important to read, and I think one of those reasons is to be able to read the room, so that you don't say things like, oh man, it's embarrassing for men to carry smart shoppers. Okay, like I said, this video is not about that, but there are 2 things that I just want to speak about before we get into the main theme of the video. Number 1 is I was watching Just Mercy yesterday. It's a movie that stars Michael B. Jordan, Jamie Foxx, and it highlights a real life story of this attorney Brian Stevenson, where he was assisting prisoners who were on death row. So, but then some of the incarcerations were illegal, in the sense that they were put in jail for crimes they didn't commit, and there was no evidence. And I think on the most of it, it was based on racial. It was based on racism. Like some guy was put in jail because he looked like he did it. Some guy was put in jail based on false testimony, and it just brought to me how black men go through so much, man. There's systems that just want to imprison and attack them. And then we have, in South Africa particularly, we have unemployment, there's injustice, there is fatherlessness, there is unemployment, there's poverty, there's substance abuse, there's lack of support. Guys, we're lucky as women, we have our support groups. We have our support groups that I think for the most part help us a lot. We have support groups like women empowerment groups or whatever that specifically focus on us. We have there's so many things that I think sort of protect us and make sure we rise above our circumstances, but I'm not sure if it happens for men. So in view of that, it bothers me that somebody goes and says something as foolish as it's embarrassing for a man to carry a smart shopper. Like, men who work for their money, work hard, men who are in basic employment, who earn basic salaries, who work hard, whether they earn a basic salary or not, they will understand that nothing diminishes their value. That car doesn't diminish their value. It doesn't make them less men because they carry a smart shopper, for example, right? So it's these small things, foolishness that goes viral, that we circulate, and it doesn't add anything into black culture. It doesn't add anything. Like, we're not speaking of the kind of men we want, in the sense that we want strong and present fathers. We want men that are protective of their children and their communities and their daughters, that are speaking out against corruption. We're speaking about how it is embarrassing for a man to carry a smart shopper. And then we want, what do we want? What do we want the black community to emulate? So I think I'm going to end it here, right? I'm going to end it here, and we're going to go into our reading. And I think if you came onto the channel because you wanted to hear what I'm saying about smart shoppers or whatever, this is where your journey ends. Okay, so the first book that I am going to share is a book about the rules of work by Richard Templar. If you know, I've had Peteninkuna, our big sister, come to speak on the channel on unfair discrimination and workplace harassment, and she's one of the most inspiring lawyers that I know of, and she had this book on her stories, and I thought and she was saying that her career grew just from reading the rules of work. So I'd suggest that if you're starting in your career in any field, then this would be helpful. I'm just gonna go to the content page quickly and show you how one of the chapters speaks about know that you're being judged at all times, and he says cultivate a smile, exude confidence and energy, develop a style that gets you noticed, pay attention to personal grooming, so look good and stuff, be attractive, be cool, speak well, write well. So it expands on these themes on that one heading on know that you're being judged at all times. So if you're in work, or even if you've been working for a while, I think it would still be good to know the rules of work. So the second book that I bring to your attention is Unseen by Sara Hagerty, and this book was very helpful to me because when I was looking for it, I was going through a period where I felt unseen. And you know, being unseen is you feel like you don't feel seen in your work, or you don't feel seen by God, or you don't feel seen by your parents. And again, another vision of the re-envision page and this channel is to recognize people wherever they are, you know. And that's why you've seen the guests that we have here. It's not your overly popular people, but it's people that I felt like we need to know their work because they're doing amazing work, although they might not be popular. I'm just gonna read from some of the pages, actually just 2 pages from the book, so you can hear what she says about being unseen. She says, we were made to be seen, to have our baby hair clipped and saved, to have our milestones noticed, to be celebrated. So wanting to be seen is actually valid because it's innate in all of us to want to be seen. We're created to want to be seen. But at the end of almost every well-intentioned baby book, you'll probably find the blank pages. Eventually, no one has time to count the number of our teeth or of the new words we've learned. As we grow, we swirl in a sea of other faces and other ambitions. I think then here she highlights that the biggest thing is hiddenness is a gift. God hiding you is a gift because during that time he prepares you for certain things, and only in those instances do we encounter God, when you are hidden in him. So she says that the closet, the corner, the place where we've been hidden from the crowd, is where God's whisper becomes a life-changing brush with his love. So I'd really suggest that if you feel like you're in a period where you feel unseen, and you're in a period of hiddenness, actually, let me just read this one as well. Without a vision for what's available to us in sitting at his feet in the hidden place, we become restless. This restlessness is powerful enough to make us start new projects, sign up to volunteer, begin foundations, delve into new ministries. Many a small group is launched, blog written, and book published by ones who are itching to climb out of the hidden place. All these things can be beautiful within God's timing, but out of time, they will only perpetuate the restlessness, the craving for the next soul hit. We become thrill seekers who miss the biggest thrill. We train ourselves to be satisfied with so little. And so God whispers to us, don't climb out of this hidden, mundane place. Don't start the foundation. Run after a new ministry. Defend yourself to your critics. Start the next blog. Just yet, find me here. I think with this part, it just highlighted that sometimes we are in a hurry to start the next company, to do this, to do that, you know, because of the restlessness of being hidden, being in a place where you are unseen. And God sometimes calls us into those places so that we can be prepared into where he's taking us. So that's what she's basically highlighting, that there's this restlessness, we rush to start things when you might be in a period where God is calling you to be hidden. One of my favorite books from last year was Yes to Life by Viktor Frankl. We have added it into our book club this year again because my friend wants to read it. So I was like, why not? You can reread good books as much as you want, because you get fed and it heals you, it helps you, and you become better. So I was like, I have no problem. But basically, Yes to Life in spite of everything is essentially that, you know, when you feel like giving up because there's just so many things, Viktor Frankl comes and reminds us to say yes to life. And if you look at so Viktor Frankl is the author of Man's Search for Meaning, and if you remember from Man's Search for Meaning, he tells us his life story in the concentration camp during what is it called, that time, you understand that having not given up during that period gives you a certain level of understanding of the meaning of life. So when he comes and tells us and reminds us to say yes to life, you sort of understand what he's talking about. So before you actually read Yes to Life, I'd suggest that you also read Man's Search for Meaning, because they actually link so much better together. And I love Victor's writing. It's actually one of my favorites. His way of writing is actually one of my favorites. So I'm just gonna read a small passage from the book. To say yes to life is not only meaningful under all circumstances, because life itself is, but it is also possible under all circumstances. Victor does venture into mental health as well. And I think if you're really feeling like your life has no meaning, and you're feeling a heaviness about life, that you should consider reading him. So yeah. The fourth book is much more relaxed, because I'm into intense books. I'm into self-help and spiritual books and Christian authored books. So sometimes I do need a break from that. And African authors are my favorites. African stories are my favorite. So the fourth one is His Only Wife by Adzo Medie. And I think because it's such an interesting story and there's so much drama, I wouldn't want to spoil it for you, but you can definitely get a copy. I definitely recommend that you get this book. I recommend that you get the book. So I'm just gonna read also a passage. Oh my gosh, I think I lost my passage. I'm just gonna read a passage from the book. So in this instance, this lady was going through the most with a man that she loved. Hey, like she was going through the most. And guess what her cousin, I think it's her cousin says about it, without ruining it for you. Afi, he's a good man. Apart from this one thing, you know, those kind of lectures that we give each other, he's a good man. You have to remember that. And what he's proposing is not ideal, and it's not common like before, but people still do it. I even know women with university degrees, doctors and lawyers, big women who are co-wives. It's manageable as long as the man is not like my father, who'll make all of the women stay in the same house and refuse to take care of his children. So I think from that you can tell where the book is going, and I'll leave it at that. Get your copy. I went to Kumbooks, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, and just looking for books, and I saw this book and it was like 99 Rand, and I wanted to buy it because it's affordable, not cheap, reasonably affordable. And I was like, okay, could invest in it. But I was like, nah, I don't need it. It's not what I want today. So I left it. And then late in December, when I went to buy my December books to read, I again searched for books. And then without seeing the cover, you know, just looking at the spine, and I didn't even read the spine, just took it out of the shelf, and it's the same book, and it's still 99 rand. And I was like, okay, maybe this is match made. You know, God really wants me to read this book. And guess what? It is Breaking Free from Body Shame by Jess Connolly. And for the longest time, I always had body shame, and this is because there were people who always said I was fat. And at the time, you know, when people speak things over you for a long time, you start to believe that, and you start to believe that and start to act around that. So I believe that. And if you know my running journey, when I started running intensely at Vets, it was because I always believed I was fat. And so I wanted to curb off the weight, that every time I go home, at least, guys, I don't look fat. But it never ended, even with the running. But then running changed my perspective, in that I started to enjoy my body, and I started to like it, and I started to enjoy being active and healthy. So Breaking Free from Body Shame comes to speak out against those kind of things, against how your body was named before, how you treat your body. Do you treat it like a project? What was God's intention when he made our bodies? Those kind of things. And I'm really not sure if I'm gonna do a reader's corner on it, but it's one of those books that actually deserves to be on reader's corner, because it's so helpful in building again the confidence that we require for our self-esteem and who we are. Yeah, so if you are struggling with body shame, I think this is your baby. Last but not least is the 6th book of 2022, and this author is not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the weak. It's C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis has a way with words. It's perfect, but it's not the easiest. And it's Surprised by Joy. And I don't think you must read Surprised by Joy without having read other C.S. Lewis books. So it would be nice if you read Mere Christianity, if you read, let me just look, The Problem of Pain. So read other C.S. Lewis books before you actually read this one. But in this book, he shares his journey to getting saved. And he has a way of writing that just that is gritting, that grabs your attention. Although English is so difficult, it's so, you know, it's high Valerian. I call it high Valerian, but it's really good. So he tells us his journey to getting saved, and he tells us his history, how he grew up, and how that affected him into not believing in the God, in Jesus Christ, because ultimately that's Christianity. And I think he highlights that his biggest thing with Christianity was interference. So he didn't like anyone interfering with him. And the Christian God, or Jesus Christ, wants to interfere in your life. He wants to be in your bedroom. He wants to tell you, he wants to speak to you about your sin. He wants to speak to you about how you speak to people. He wants to speak to you about your perspectives about men. He wants to interfere with your life. So that is the Christ. And he says that his unbelief really was the fear of a God that wants to interfere with his life. But he eventually he was saved by, I think he says, by accident. And then we have one of the greatest Christian authors, C.S. Lewis. And guys, that brings me to the end of the books that I read in 2022, which I think in total now, adding the first 6 that I shared, is 12. And that means it's 1 book per month, and that's the goal for this year as well. And if there is more time to invest in reading, I would definitely do it. And if there's more money to invest in reading, I would definitely do it. So please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Leave comments, guys. I'd appreciate that. And goodbye.